It's like peanut butter. You can never have too much. I think.
I buy the buy one, get ones all the time.
That's why they call you BOGO Tea.
Yeah, BOGO Tea.
Welcome to the INYOPools Podcast, your go-to source for everything pool equipment. Whether you're a seasoned pool professional, a DIY pool owner, or just diving into the world of pool maintenance, we've got you covered. In today's episode, we discuss how best to prepare yourself and your pool for spring startup. Take it away, boys. Well, hello and welcome everybody to another episode of the INYOPools Podcast. I am the inevitable Matthew, leading the horde today, and we are a man down, but our spirits are still up. Rob is not with us on this particular episode, but we still have Dan, the man with the plan. To my right, Mike 2, but just as important as Mike 3, Tyler.
Oh,
not as important as Mike 1, let's be honest.
Aww.
Oh, look at Big Tyler, Big T.
Big T.
We can't call him little anymore because of the HR issue. All right, and today we have a very special episode. It's actually the start of a, I guess you would say, it's a series on how to open your pool. This is kind of a prep episode. It's not really going to be about fixing or really adding anything into your pool. This is going to be an episode that primarily focuses on the week before, because I was a Cub Scout, at least for 1 year. Made it to Bear, so not to brag. I'm not sure about you guys, but I was always raised, be prepared. So the best thing to do when you especially have a big job in front of you, which, let's be honest, even a simple pool cleaning is a simple pool opening is going to be a bit of a task. Before you get into it, I would say the week before you plan on opening your pool, give your pool an inspection just to kind of know what you're getting into. We're going to cover the basic things which you can do at the pool, and then going back to your equipment pad. And then we'll also talk about kind of the other cleaning equipment, how to check those and things like that. But I guess we can just jump right into it. Chances are, if you are opening your pool, you've probably closed it, and that closing process would involve a cover. Now, Dan, what would you do when you're prepping to open your pool? What's one of the things you would do with your cover?
First thing I would do is do a check for any damages. And you can usually spot that right from just walking out and taking a good look at the cover and making sure that you don't see any rips, tears, or anything that, might hinder its proper use. And if you do see damage, that's when I would, before you remove it, cover either in ground or above ground, always make sure you take a picture of the damage before you remove it.
So just obviously just go out there, take a look at your cover, give it a once over. If you see any damage, and this is specifically important if you're going to do a warranty claim. When you do a warranty claim, especially if you get it from a company like an online company like us, if you're going to file a warranty claim, they're going to want to see what the damage is. And a lot of the time we've dealt with before in previous seasons, someone sees a damage on the cover, and then, it's the day that they're doing it. They don't see it until they're actually taking all the cover off. And we inevitably have to ask for pictures of the cover because we're not there to see it. And there's a whole kerfluffle about, I don't want to have to unroll this thing all over again. So while you're out there, just go ahead and take pictures of your cover. After you inspect your cover, what would you do next? Are you going to take a look at your skimmer or something like that, Tyler?
So your next step would be, if you have an above ground pool, as you're inspecting your cover, inspect your actual structure. Make sure there's no bows, nothing's broken as far as your.
What about arrows?
Huh?
Nothing.
Okay. Inspect that. Inspect your skimmer. Make sure, because if there was water in there or left in there, it can freeze, and you want to make sure there's no separation in your skimmer, no cracks, nothing broken there. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then kind of go from there and just inspect things as you're looking at the cover.
Yeah, and once you Well, obviously, if you've taken a look at the skimmer, you've already more than likely removed one or two of the water bags to peel it up, and because the skimmer is going to be underneath the winter cover. After you kind of got that peek in, I presume the next big step is going to be looking at the water. So what are you going to do when that water's coming for you? Anybody can take it.
So whenever you're looking at your water, what you're doing now is you're just kind of peeking in there, seeing what the condition of the water is, if it's green, cloudy, if it's clear. I mean, at the end of the day, you're just kind of getting an idea where you're at with your water and what your next course of action should be. Maybe purchasing some chemicals to clean it up, whether it's cloudy, algicides, kind of getting an idea of, hey, my next step after I take this cover off, what am I going to do? You got something on there, Dan?
No, that's pretty much it. Basically, when you just, like you said, you just want to get an idea of where your water stands at that moment, because then you'll need to know what you're going to need to prep and get ready for that day when you finally do get your pool ready to be used for the summer. And you want to make sure you have all the chemicals you need.
And I think this is a really possibly the most important step, because when you take off that cover and you're going to start doing the pool opening process, once you start, you can't stop. So if you realize that you need more shock, or you need more flocculant, or clarifier, or algicide, or whatever, if you're in a place with a local pool company where you can go pick that up, that's great. If you can pick it up the same day. But if you're in an area that doesn't have a pool company on every corner like we do in Florida, like if you're in a Minnesota or an Indiana or something like, no offense, you might want to have those things ahead of time. That's why it's always important to go out the week before. So when you take a look at the pool and you see that your pool is green, a certain shade of green, you'll know, okay, I need such and such many bags of shock, which is something that I think we're going to add to the episode description. I was thinking of adding a color swatch of green from your basic, I guess, Lima, all the way up to your deep. All the way up to your Kelly, to your deep forest green. Mm-hmm. So if you're listening to this, you can pull that up, you can click the link, and then you can see what type of green compared to the water in your pool, and you can figure out, all right, well, if it's on the lighter side, and let's say I have 10,000 gallons, just make it easy for math. I'm not a math person. If you have a 10,000 gallon pool, one bag of shock is good for usually 10,000 gallons. So if you're on the lighter side, you might need 3-4 bags of shock just to be able to handle that kind of, I guess, killing. I wouldn't say killing spree, but you are killing a bunch of algae. But to handle that kind of purging, and you also need algicide and stuff like that.
I think the things that you need to have on hand at that point is some form of chlorine shock, some form of algicide, and some form of acid, so that you can bring down the pH while you're trying to kill this. So
muriatic?
Muriatic.
Non-fuming stuff is hydrochloric.
Yeah. So you want something to bring down that pH. You can even use pH minus or have pH minus on hand. Just something so whenever you start the process, you have it there and you can actually start the process. So in your prep stage, go ahead and get that stuff, and make sure you read the content of like your algicide to see how many gallons that covers for a green pool. That way okay, I may need 2 bottles of this. Same with your clarifiers, same with your chlorine. Chlorine you can kind of keep on hand, and if you buy too much, it's never a bad thing because you're going to need it.
Yeah. It's like peanut butter. You can never have too much, I think.
I buy the buy one, get ones all the time.
That's why they call you BOGO tea.
Yeah, BOGO tea. Another thing is I would keep a checklist with you. I don't think we covered that in the beginning.
Yep.
Maybe just a little board or a cork board with a piece of paper to go down and checklist everything. That's a good idea.
Yeah, I mean, you can just do it on your phone. Have a steno pad. I'm old. Yeah, I said steno pad. If just to have that on hand when you're going down the list of things to check, but just to kind of round out the whole chemical part, when you look under the hood or the cover, as it may be, you're going to be checking the color of the water just to get a general idea. Now, we'll put up the chart, and it's not going to be the Bible in terms of how much pool shock or how much algicide you need, but it is a good general idea to think, okay, if it's kind of in the mid range, I might need for a 10,000 gallon pool, I might need 6 to 8 bags of shock, just to make sure that I have enough on hand in case something gets a little squirrely and I need to give it a little extra boost. And also, again, like you said, you really can't have too much shock.
No, that's why I always tell people when they come in, if you think you need 4, add 5.
And most of these chemicals, even on your clarifier area and stuff like that, you may need that later down the road. So if you only need a bottle and you accidentally get 2 bottles, put it in your storage shed, wherever you keep it, and use it for later, or use it for the next season.
You will always need it eventually.
Yeah, I mean, if you have a party or you just, maybe just add it to your routine as maybe once a month, just to, crisp up your water a little bit.
Yeah, the algicides have maintenance doses on there too. They're just not meant to kill algae. They're meant to also maintain. So you can use that as a maintenance.
Yeah. So whatever doesn't get used up killing will just stay in the water as preventative.
Yeah, and it's not something that's going to harm a swimmer. I mean, it's mainly just usually, especially if it's like an enzyme cleaner, it's going to be pretty non-toxic, especially if it's like a natural chemistry. That stuff is pretty safe for most applications. So, all right, we've popped the hood, we've taken a look at the water, or we got the little swatch out. It's like, okay, we're a light Kelly green, we're a little Notre Dame as we're going for that. We kind of have an idea of how much shock we need. We'll get a little bit of algicide on top of that. You have to worry about like pH, or at this point, do you even consider that? Or is it more of when you're trying to recover a pool at the early stages of opening, it's more about just having the chlorine, the shock, and the algicide on hand, and you can worry about that stuff on
and the acid, because you want to lower the pH.
Oh, yeah, the acid.
The lower your pH, the stronger the chlorine. So if you have a green pool, you want to have very low pH. And then once the pool's cleared up, then you can readjust. And that's when you want to do the adjustment.
Yeah, and once we're not buying the other balancing chemicals, because once we get these chemicals in there and we kill the algae and we get the pool back to crystal blue, now we can test the water and see what we need, stabilizer, calcium, whatever it be.
And I guess we didn't really cover like compensating for dropping water levels and adding water. I mean, it adds another level, but again, if you do it right and you get a little bit extra, you might be diluting some of the like pH levels or the CYA or the calcium hardness stuff, but all that other stuff will come out in the wash.
Because you'll bounce that afterwards.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, the important part is to get rid of the green, and then you can, you can get mean later on the other stuff. So now that we've kind of got a basic idea of what we are going to add to our water, what are we going to do next? I would say probably the cleaning accessories. Let's before we get to the equipment pad, let's hit the midpoint of like brushes and skim nets and things like that. Would you consider doing a check, or I would say like an inspection of what your brushes look like? Let's say your brushes at the end of the season were already on their last legs, and then you realize, okay, I got a little bit of an opening ahead of me. Might want to have the new one on backup.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I agree. So what you want to do is you just want to go through your toolkit pretty much. Your brush, your net, your pole. I mean, if that got damaged throughout the winter.
Your vac head.
Your vac head, your hoses. And you just want to take your, like, it's as simple as taking your net, if it's net material, and pulling it, seeing if it starts coming apart, or your brush, kind of wave your hand on it, and if the bristles start popping out, then you know, okay, it's time for a new brush and net,
or it's flattened out.
Exactly. If there's noticeable, if it's a plastic handle, those break all the time, and if it's been sitting out in the weather or sitting in a shed, it could be brittle, and it's just time to get a new one at that point.
What about hoses? I was talking to Dan earlier, and he was bringing up a good way to kind of figure out if your old hose has integrity. What was the thing you were talking about with a hose?
If you don't want to run it through your pool, then you just unravel it. If it's
one of those longer manual hose things, like 40 feet long or something like that.
Yeah, if it's a vac hose, you want to unravel it. If it's difficult to unravel and it's really, really stiff, then most likely it's going to snap when you're unraveling. But if you unravel it, you could take a garden hose, stick it in one end, turn it on, and then just look to see if you see any water coming out the sides. Usually it's best to do it on like concrete, because you can just see where the water damage is. Yeah, and then if you want, you can slowly turn it while you're doing it, and you can see it would get all sides, and then that's a good. Usually tells you right there that you either got a crack or a hole. Or
and I think Tyler was talking about, like, if it's one of those, I'd say, suction cleaner type hoses, where if that comes in 3-4 foot sections, if they aren't like flexible, or if they're U-shaped or something like that.
The biggest thing is those hoses always need to be straight. So whenever you store them, number one, you store them straight. But if you pull them out and they have a 90 or 45 bend to them, sometimes you can put them all together, lay them out in the sun, let them melt, and kind of flex them back. But if individually they're flexing, you need new hoses. But also, same with the long hose, you can kind of take them and bend them. And if they start cracking, they're dry rotted at that point, and you're going to have issues. So you might as well just replace them instead of trying to see if they're going to work for you, because they're eventually going to suck in air. And if you suck in air whenever your pool's on, other problems happen.
Yeah, I mean, and I'll be honest with you, like, that's, if you have a bad hose, that can, and you're not sure exactly, especially if you're new to pools, you don't understand suction side air leaks and how, like, what's happening. You think something's wrong with your pump. You think you're getting air in your filter. You're not, you're trying to vacuum with this hose, and you lose prime. You don't understand why. And it's just another one of those things where if you haven't experienced it before, or you haven't dealt with it in some other way, where it might add an hour into troubleshooting that you really didn't need to do, which is a little frustrating.
Yeah, quick on that is, if you get air, you can always just turn off the vac line, and if it starts to prime again, then you can go do a further inspection of your pool equipment. If you have a vac line. If you don't, you have to turn your skimmer off.
Yeah,
bad hose equals bad day. I think that's what you're trying to say.
And yeah, exactly. And like Tyler was saying, that when you store your equipment, and that's the thing too, is properly storing your equipment makes all the difference. If you have one of those cleaners that does have sections, don't roll it up like you would a vac hose. Take it apart and store them in individual sections, and then
rinse your equipment off.
And always rinse it. That's the big thing. People don't understand, if you put your pole, put your net or your brush into the pool, you want to hose it off as soon as you take it off to get all that chlorine. Because if you store it for the winter after you've just taken it out of a chlorinated pool, most likely when you do the stretch test, get a new one.
Yeah, chlorine is fantastic at sanitizing your pool, and also costing you money buying new equipment if you don't.
Destroying it.
Yeah,
destruction.
I mean, it's like the old term of rode hard, put away wet. Don't put things away wet. They're not going to last.
No.
That's why whenever I have my leather chaps, I always always sun dry them first. Everyone knows that. And then, okay, now that we've kind of covered brushes and skim nets and kind of all the cleaning accessories, you might also, if you've had damage to your pool cover, you might also want to consider maybe getting a leaf eater or something like that, just to if in case debris or stuff has fallen through. You can also inspect your pool cleaner just to see if you, like if it's a Hayward Navigator, check the little feet cork pads and all that other stuff just to make sure things are working. But now that we've kind of covered that, let's go to the equipment pad. I mean, there's not really much because this is just like the week before. You're not going to be starting everything up, so you can't do a bunch of electrical stuff. But generally, if it's electrical, either you can get that stuff on hand from an Ace Hardware or Home Depot or whatever, or call somebody else and try to wire it up, get a multimeter out or whatever. But in terms of making sure things are vacuum sealed, like O-rings, unions, lid gaskets, and things like that. Kind of tell me what you think you should, like the checklist you should go through. Anybody, go for it.
So what I would do is I'd first start with the easy stuff like your baskets, your O-rings, kind of do the chalk test. Rub your O-rings on your fingers. If it turns black, then you probably need new O-rings.
Yeah.
Your baskets, put pressure on them. If they start cracking, it's better to buy a new basket than whenever you start the season and leaves are getting in there and break that basket. Now you got a clogged impeller or something, clogged line because your skimmer basket is broken. So do a pressure test on it. Just kind of, you don't have to be rough with it. But
yeah. If your basket starts looking like Chex Mix or shredded wheat, then chances are you should get a new basket.
Yes.
And treat that one kind, bear it with honors, because it's had a hard life, especially if you put let's say chlorine tablets directly into it.
I don't advise that, but yes.
Yeah, exactly. learn from your past mistakes. Don't do that just because your basket budget is going to just go skyrocket. So in terms of checking the equipment pad, baskets and gaskets, skimmer basket, you should have already checked that, but just in case, skimmer basket, pump gasket or a pump basket, and then the gaskets on unions, adapters, especially on your filter.
If you have unions, you always want to, if you have the unions and you want to check those. If you don't, then you want to look at the MIPs to see if there is any sign that water or something has been leaking out. And usually you'll tell if you put antifreeze in your lines, usually you'll see that substance coming out right there.
That you could check for if you do have unions, you can check for cracks around the union. Sometimes whenever you take that stuff loose or something, you don't notice that. I've went into backyards and seen cracks on unions where people didn't notice it. Or if you have a salt cell and you put the fake dummy salt cell in there and you tighten it down too much and those unions break, then it's time to fix that. Cracks in your filter.
Yep,
housing,
cracks in the filter, cracks on your just once over of your PVC piping. Make sure everything's together, no cracks, no damage.
Well, now that you mentioned filters in general, Dan, how do you inspect that at this point? I would presume you just open it up and check a cartridge or DE grids, or I'm not sure if you would do sand, but what would you do?
Sand would have probably the more difficult one because it would require you draining out hundreds of pounds of sand and be putting it in. If it is that time where you've had it a sand filter and it's been 7 years, 5 to 7 years, then you might want to do that anyway and then just put new sand in the new year. But if you own a cartridge or a DE, if you choose to leave them in, then I would definitely open them and inspect them, make sure that the grids are still pliable or they're not too flimsy.
Yeah.
Like
check the skeleton structure.
Yeah.
Those things can
like cleaning
break
cleaners, you'll know they're bad because as soon as you take it out, it's like an accordion; it'll just fall over. Yeah. But I would recommend that if you're winterizing, that I would take out the grid assembly, the whole manifold, everything out of the DE and the cartridge, and store those. After you've cleaned them, store them somewhere out of the elements. But if you choose to leave them in, that's when I would take them out and inspect them, make sure that no damage to the manifolds, no damage to the grids, no damage to the bottom structure that holds the whole thing together, and make sure that whole assembly can come together.
If it's the D grids or D filter, I'd also check the stovepipe gasket?
Stem pump, yep.
Yeah, just to make sure that it's, because that's a one thing that's just kind of like, especially if someone's getting a bunch of DE powder in their pool, that's one of the last steps that's just.
Sometimes when you get deep in your pool, that's
You
the simplest.
You start your pool up and your pool's already green, and then you see D powder shooting into your pool. You may just sell your house.
Yeah. Or you're just like, man, how much concrete to fill this in? It's probably not as much as new D grids.
I did want to throw out there on the above ground pools for their pumps and filters. I mean, if it's not a hard pump, you can start that motor up and see if it's still working and stuff like that.
Yeah.
You can just plug it into a wall socket and turn it on if it's 110.
Just, for a couple of seconds.
Yeah, just to see it come on, because there's nothing worse to go start it up the next week and now your motor's dead.
Yeah, exactly.
Unfortunately for the in-ground pools that have 220 and stuff, you really can't do that.
Yeah. Could you plug it into a
what you could do is you could turn the breaker on real quick, make sure hear it come on, turn it off real quick, because it's not going to hurt to run it for a second.
Yeah.
It's whenever you have plugs on it and you're trying to run it and it just comes on out of nowhere, which shouldn't happen because it should be off at the breaker. But just turn it on, make sure it's running. You don't have to check the other electrical stuff like your salt systems or heaters, because that, even if they're broken, water can run through it and your pool system can still run. But your pump, on the other hand, if you go to open it up a week later and your motor's dead. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if your salt chlorinator's down, I mean, who cares? You still got shock. You can still run your water. I mean, if your heater's down, like, well, I don't need to heat my pool anyway. And hopefully you plumbed in a bypass so you don't have to go through it every time you're kind of running your pump. So, I mean, the main things that are important when it comes to opening your pool is going to having good pump integrity and just making sure that your plumbing and everything is vacuum tight, so you don't have pressure side or you don't have suction side issues with priming and all this other stuff. Because once you start getting everything running and pumping and all that stuff, you want to make sure that you can just push through, because you don't want something where you start it Saturday morning and like man, it's Sunday afternoon, and I still got 20% left of this. So it's that's why it's important to always, when you're going to a big project like this, always make sure that you do a prep day. I always say a week before, just in case if you realize that you need to order something that's not local. Like if let's say you need to buy a pump or a replacement motor from your favorite e-commerce site. I don't know what site that is. I don't know. I would, INYOPools. 10% off cartridge. That's just how I naturally cough. Yeah. So if you are prepared a week ahead of time, that gives you the time to
get what you need.
Kind of figure out the timing of everything. Like, okay, I'm going to put this in. I can put the pull shock in. Then I can also put the algicide in, depending on the type of algicide, at the same time, or you might have to wait a bit. But it gives you a time to prep everything, time out everything, so you don't waste a weekend trying to get all this running around and doing this and that. But
yeah, you definitely don't want to wait because the swim season's so short as it is.
Yeah, if you're closing your pool, you have a short swim season.
Yeah, and the last thing you want, and we've seen it all last summer, is my pump is down, or my motor went bad, and I need this now because I only have so much, and we understand that you have such a small window to enjoy your pool, and the last thing you want to do is right in the middle of it have to wait on a new motor to come in, somebody to put it in, just so you can pick up and then hope that your pool doesn't turn. And if your pool turns because it being down, then that's more time taken away from that precious swim time.
Yeah, imagine if you didn't do the week thing, or you didn't do the thing the week before, and instead of realizing that you have bad gaskets on a pool pump or something like that, where you can't really run your pump because it's not priming or something, and let's say you don't have a pool store around, you might be halfway through your cleaning process before you realize I can't go any further because my pump's not going to work. And then all that chemistry, all that stuff you've put into that pool, it's pretty much all for naught, because you still got to wait a couple more days until you can get your pump back up. So, again, it pays to be prepared. This is not a commercial for the Cub Scouts, but always be prepared, and think ahead of time of what you might need. But I guess when it comes to prepping, let's kind of go through it. Inspect your cover. Kind of take a look at the cover, see if there's any tears or rips or anything like that. If you think you are going to need a replacement, or especially if it's under warranty, you probably want to take pictures. So whatever place you got it from, if they ask for, you have it, and so you don't have to take the cover off or tell them, and then they ask for pictures, and then you got to unfurl everything all over again. So inspect your cover, take pictures if needed. Then you're going to look under the hood. Take a couple water bags, or I don't know what you would do with how much you would have to do with the safety cover. You probably have to take off half of it, just so you don't have like a bunch of rubber bands just bumping everywhere and hitting you with brass anchors. I heard those things hurt. But so remove a water bag or two, take a look at your skimmer, then do a eye inspection of your water. Take a look at that color palette that we hopefully Nathan puts in. Yeah, I dropped your name. You're responsible for it. Put that link of the color swatch in the thing. But yeah, kind of compare your pool water's color to that kind of swatch of greens. If you are on the lighter side, you might need 3 or 4 times your general amount of regular pool shocking. So if you have a 20,000 gallon pool, it's 1 pound per shock per 10,000 gallons. So you would need 2 pounds of shock to regularly shock your pool. So you might want 3 or 4 rounds of that. So
double the
6, 8, yeah. So and also you might not need half of that, but it's something good to have on hand, just because you're going to use pool shock, clarifier, algicide, and all that. At least you won't need to do it. You won't need to buy it for the rest of the season, or at least partially. Then you're going to move on to your pool brushes. Look at your hoses, inspect your hoses, make sure they're not cracking, not bending too much. Get a replacement brush, or make sure bristles aren't falling out. You don't have flat spots and things like that. Then pump. Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, well, your pool pad.
Oh yeah, pool pad. Then your pool pad. Look at your equipment pad. Check your gaskets and your baskets. Make sure everything's right and airtight. And I'm not going to keep rhyming. I'm not Nipsey Russell. I wish I was Nipsey Russell. Yeah.
You're doing a once over just to see if you see any visible damage, because a lot of times you won't really see anything until you actually do turn.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you can only do so much, but like Tyler was saying earlier, you can do something with the O-rings where you can tell the rubber is degrading if you remove the gasket and kind of rub your fingers along the length of the gasket. If it's degraded, you'll get basically like a marker stain on your fingers, and you realize, okay, well, this rubber is shot. Let me go get some.
Or if it's flat,
you can visually see it sometimes.
Yeah, if if the lid O-ring is not round and it's kind of mushed down, then you definitely need to.
Unless it was a lid O-ring that's meant to be flat,
like a Hayward Super Pump. basket gasket.
Yeah, the basket.
strainer.
Yeah, but that's probably,
That one, or if it's stretched out, because I've noticed
Yeah.
the Haywards, sometimes whenever you go to take it out and
you
lube
have
it
to
up,
tuck it in.
you're trying to put it back in there, and once this side's coming out, whenever you put in this side
Yeah.
in, and vice versa.
Yeah,
So
things get warped, pinched, and stuff like that. So take a look at that on your pump. Then you have your filter, especially if it's your filter media. This is more specifically for like the cartridge and the DE. Check to make sure that the fabric, like the actual fabric on the cartridge and the DE grids, isn't ripped, torn, or just like stained green. If it's stained green, then you can try and do an acid bath. Maybe that'll do something, but there's a good chance you're going to need a new cartridge or grids anyway. But and also check the structure of it, because in cartridges they have the plastic heavy inner core. So if that's cracking or the end caps are cracking, you'll probably want to replace that. And then with the D grits, you have the plastic skeleton within the fabric.
And all that.
And also, if it's a D filter, you want to check the manifolds, the stovepipe. I guess that's what it's called, the stovepipe gasket, and all those things. So take a look at that. Again, it's going to be more of a visual inspection because you're not running water through it yet, but it's the week ahead. Just be prepared. But outside of that, once you're done, kind of cross your fingers, knock on wood, and hope everything kind of turns out good. But this is going to be the beginning of a series. Hopefully Rob will be coming back for the next step, which will actually be
Opening.
the grand opening of your pool, and getting everything and adding chemicals and all that such. But that will be our next episode. But I think we covered prep week.
Yep. You don't want to do too much. You just want to make sure nothing was damaged during the winter.
I test everything.
Yep. So it's just basically just the eyeball. It's just a preventive maintenance.
Yeah, just get your magnifying glass out and just go for it.
Exactly.
Get your if it's an O-ring, get your fingers dirty. Actually, don't get your fingers dirty, because then your O-rings are good.
Yeah.
But thank you for joining us. If you have any questions about anything pool or spa, please visit us over at INYOPools.com. And
Bye.
thanks for listening to the INYOPools podcast. If you found this pool opening discussion helpful, be sure to subscribe and leave us a review. For more pool tips and resources, visit INYOPools.com, and don't forget to follow us on Instagram and Facebook. Links for both are in the episode description. We'll see you next time.